Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Up the Guts podcast. Joining as always is your host, Tricky, and my co-host, Will. How are we, Will?
I'm very good, and we have a very special guest on this episode we've been looking forward to for a bit now.
Yes, we do. Now, if you guys have been watching the social media scene, especially around the AFL, you would have noticed this fella coming around and some of his mates, Joel Isles, or known as Checkers from Marmalade. How are we, mate?
Fantastic to be in here. Monday morning, how good?
How we pull up for the weekend.
The wash up from the big weekend of sport. So it's good. It's a good time to jump on a potty because there's lots of fresh stuff to talk about.
Yes, obviously you're back playing cricket too for Richmond City. How have you found that so far?
Yeah, I haven't played for a few years, so I had to dust off a few cobwebs, but we got our first win on the weekend, so it was just good to be in the winning books. We lost 2 games in a row, and the teams we played probably were a little bit on the younger side, a lot of 13 and 14-year-olds. So getting beaten by them was a bit of an eye-opener, but we dusted off a few cobwebs and a few of my mates made some runs on the weekend, so it was good.
How would you describe yourself as a player?
I used to be a bowler, but my body's breaking down, so I've just developed my batting this year. I used to be a quick bowler, so I can't bowl quick anymore. The shoulders are creaking and the knees are hurting, so we've just developed the batting game, I guess.
Yeah, and obviously it's just starting off that season. What type of content can we expect coming from the cricket side? Obviously, we know the footy side. What can we expect from the cricket side? Well,
coming to Melbourne, moving to Melbourne at the end of this year's footy season, we sort of have to get prepared for next year's footy season because we have to get a new club. We're not sure how the footy will work over here, like all that sort of like a new location, new space. So we thought we'd play cricket this year as a bit of a tester to just work out how it would go going to a new club, meeting new people, getting new people in content, maybe dealing with leagues, dealing with streaming, dealing with vlogs and everything like that. Because in Adelaide, it was like bread and butter. I'd done it for years, played in the same team for 20 years. So we thought we'd try it out with cricket season. So we've come to a brand new club. We've met a heap of brand new people. And sort of getting how we stream, how we film, because we had people who film for us in Adelaide. We don't have them over here. So we're just using it as a bit of an experimental period at the moment. So we're just seeing what works, what doesn't. So at the moment, we're just trying out like game day vlogs, little short format recaps on the TikTok and Instagram, but a lot of highlights of the not so highlights.
So footy next year is a big priority for you guys.
Massive
like playing?
priority. Yep. Massive priority. I'm actually in the process this week of trying to lock down a club. A lot earlier than I normally would, because normally in the D grade we don't rock up to the club until March.
Yeah.
And it's November, and I'm having to go out and look at pre-seasons and where we might be able to play. So it's weird because we're taking it seriously in that sense, but we don't take the footy very seriously. Like we don't take the fitness of the footy seriously, but I have to find the location and the new team. So
still looking to play the lower Div 12 sort of footy?
I don't think I can play the high.
Yeah,
the body's breaking down from just playing a couple games of 9th grade cricket. So, but we will have a lot of recruits, and I've got a lot of other like content creators that we're very keen to play. So it's good because we've moved into Melbourne. We're collaborating a lot more with other creators. There wasn't a heap of footy creators or a heap of sport creators in Adelaide to collaborate with, but there's hundreds and thousands of them in Melbourne. So, so it's going to be great just linking up with a lot of other people, seeing who else might shine in the content, because in Adelaide it was just myself and Shrey featuring in majority of the content, but over in Melbourne we might not even feature in a lot of it. It might be the Cater McDonald's of the world, or Will Taylor, or someone might pop up and provide some really good content saga. Maybe like Shrey's first goal was last year, but who knows what next year will hold.
Yeah, nice.
Now, obviously, also, we'll get into more of the Marmalade stuff soon, but you also have a passion for music and some DJing. How did music come about in your life?
Yeah, I don't know. I was kind of leaving school, and it was really weird because I was actually enrolled to study engineering, chemical engineering at university, which I didn't go through with and pulled out to take up working in the pub and making electronic music on the side. So it was a bit of a different sort of landscape of where my potential career could have gone. But made a lot of electronic music when I was like 18, 19, 20. Don't do a lot of it now. The content's sort of taken over and the sport has taken over, but still play the occasional gig here and there. So got down to Lambie's a few weeks ago and Ballarat. I don't know if I've got a couple coming up. I've got to look in the calendar. But doing a few, I like doing the touring gigs. It's a good way to travel around and see new places, because I've never been to Ballarat until I played a DJ gig there. So
yeah, nice. Do you want to go?
Yeah, I was going to say, what have some of the people you listened to growing up, if it was music-wise or DJ-wise, that made you think this is something that I'd like to have a dabble in?
Will Sparks was the one. He was firing red hot just as I turned 18 and sort of started going out to nightclubs or going to parties or whatever. Will Sparks was sort of just starting to crack it into the commercial like radio scene and become a really, really big thing. He was starting to tour internationally, which sort of like opened a lot of, well, I was aspiring to be like doing a little bit of DJing at that point, but seeing that like an Australian DJ can go to Europe and go to America and just travel the world and make all this cash and have all these people know who he is just from Melbourne or from Adelaide and there was an Uber Jack in Adelaide who was travelling as well, and he just see him on the regular at your local venue, but then you also see him playing to 10,000 people in Europe, and you're like, hell, that could be anyone, that could be me, but never did. But it was an aspiration for a little bit there.
Yeah, nice. Do you want to pursue that more now, or do you reckon content creation is your main focus at the moment?
Content creation is the main focus. I still do a little bit of music on the side as a good like way to sort of just like tune out sometimes when the content gets too much. So like my screen time is pretty hard. I just got the notification on the train in was 11 hours last week per day, which I can't imagine how many hours you're awake per day, maybe like 16. So probably thinking about like 80% of my days I spend on a screen. Obviously electronic music's still on a screen, but it's a different type of screen. You're not editing videos, you're sort of just playing around with music, and you can do it different ways and creatively. So sometimes I use that as a bit of like a release, I guess, to get away from the content. But
yeah, nice. Now,
before we move on to the other stuff, I did have a little like game we can do. So obviously you've played at a few different venues. I want you to, I'm going to list you 5 places you played at. I want you to do a bit of a blind ranking.
Of how the venue
was, or how much you enjoyed playing there, the atmosphere.
Yeah, all right.
Okay, first one, so 1 to 5, 5 obviously being the bottom, 1 being the top. First one, Lucky Thursday / Billboards.
I'm putting it at 3 because I don't know what's coming, but I think that's a safe thing to do when I've done these blind rankings in the past. But it's a really fun gig. It gets a lot of slander for people probably a little bit older because it's quite a younger uni crowd. Mm-hmm. But they go off. Like, they have so much fun. Sometimes the best crowds are the young crowds because they're enjoying it. Sometimes the old crowds are a bit mellow and blasé and they don't really get into it too much. But the 18, 19 uni crowd can be pretty wild sometimes.
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned this one before, Lambies.
I put number 2 because we had a really good night there. It was a good crew. I've been there twice
down in Geelong,
recently. Yeah, in Geelong. So I had like Will Taylor, Shrey obviously came, Jarrah, we had Caden come. So it was just a really good crowd, and we got them all on stage, and they all had a really good night. I ended up driving them home, and the car ride home was crazy. They couldn't stop talking, and they were buzzing because it was their first experience being on a stage.
Yeah. Now, one that probably holds deep to our heart, Will.
The local.
Central Hotel or the Sench in Beaconsfield.
I'm going to put number 1. I don't know what's coming, but I do love the Sench. I don't think I've had a bad gig there, and I've played there probably 8 or 9 times. So they do a boiler room, and I haven't been put in that yet, and I'm really keen to get out there because it looks pretty crazy. They do long weekends, but I'm normally inside, and I don't think I've ever had a bad gig there. They're really good.
Is the boiler room, Will, the one out on the deck?
Yeah, where CJ was on was it grand final eve?
Yeah.
CJ was in the boiler room and I was inside, and I could see him out there, and it looked like his dance floor was going a little bit better than not. They were both full, but his dance floor looked like it was popping off.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure the outdoor area there's bigger anyway as well. So it gives that off as well. He was getting swarmed that night. There was people everywhere.
Now, one that I personally haven't been to, but I've heard some good things about, and you went there, I believe, during the grand final week, the Social down the peninsula.
Okay, we'll put it at 4. It was busy as. I've never been to Frankston. I've never been out that way, so it was new to me. It was a very big venue, and it was built for like bands. It's like a band venue, so it was a unique type of venue because the stage was really big, and the way it was built was just a bit different to normal nightclubs. But it was good fun. We had a good crew again because it was grand final week. There was lots of mates over, and I'll put it at 4. A little bit stiff, but I think I've already chewed up all my top spots.
Yeah, true.
So whatever's coming is probably the best one. I'm going to
number 5. You might be spewing this one. It's the Ramsgate Hotel.
I'm happy with that at 5.
Yep. You spent a lot of time there, though. I've seen. Yeah,
I did spend a lot of time there, but we didn't end on good terms. So
okay. Yep.
I got delisted pretty much.
Delisted.
So like any AFL player that gets delisted, they probably don't have great memories for a little bit. So I still chewing that one up a little bit. But
yep.
Yeah. Just a question from me. Where's somewhere you would love to DJ, or somewhere you aspire to maybe take that?
It's really rogue because no other DJ would have this, but I'd love to play like a footy game or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
Okay.
like the grand final would be crazy, but it's hard to imagine a DJ sort of doing that because they do a lot of live entertainment and it's all about theatrics.
What about sort of like even, the Big Bash?
Yeah, the Big Bash we see. I even saw like Hot Dub Time Machine played at the SCG late in the year. It was like Buddy's last game and they sort of like emptied out a few seats and he had a DJ deck and everyone was on the oval for kick to kick.
Yep.
Something like that would be crazy. Or even just pre-game. The Big Bash do it well. There's a good party atmosphere. But for me, footy would be cool just to be like one of the first. Like it's not really something you see all the time.
Yeah, that's a different answer. I wasn't expecting that.
Now we'll move on to it. Do you want to kick it off? Well, we'll move on to more of the Marmalade stuff, which is probably where we'd say this year it's really even kicked off a huge amount. But what inspired you to start Marmalade and how long was it planned for? Was it just like a spur of the moment thing where it was like, you know what, stuff it, let's do it?
It was pretty spur of the moment. I've been doing my own social media stuff for the DJing for years. So I had a bit of background in like making my own clips, making videos, pushing out content for that. But it's a different type of content. It's like a lot of like video clips for your songs and things like that and post-gig videos that sort of they're very different to the footy stuff. But we went into COVID and we had a lockdown and the nightclub I was working at and doing a lot of video and content work for shut down. But I still had these accounts and I was still experimenting on TikTok and I only just got on it. So I started putting out some stuff of my own on the TikTok. Obviously nightclubs weren't open, so there wasn't a lot of DJ stuff to put out. But I remember I put up an old Snapchat of I was going for footy and I tried to put a pizza on a steady table next to the bath and it fell into the bath. And it started blowing up and I was like, shit. The account got like 5K followers in a week, which... I mean, TikTok, you could do that. You could go a bit crazy. But for me, at the time, I just got on the app. So I was like, that's pretty cool. Like 5K followers. It's taken me 5 years to build 10K or 5K followers on my music profiles. And I built it in a week just by putting up one video. So very quickly, I had to come up with the name Marmalade because I didn't have that name on there. So we were discussing, me and my mates, about how I've worked in bars and probably going to post a lot of footy content on this account. And we thought about Trevor Marmalade from the Footy Show.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So he obviously was situated in the bar doing the comedy on the side. So we thought, well, bars, footy, Marmalade, put that name on the account. And it sort of just stuck. It was good. Got a good sort of reaction. The DJ industry, you spend so much time working on your name, stage name, logo, branding. And we just did it overnight at like 2 a.m. because we had all these followers coming in. We're like, with TikTok, you get a lot of accounts rip your video out if it goes viral and start posting on their own account.
Yep.
So we're like, we need to nail the name right now because like it's starting to get posted on like Barstool Sports and trying to think a couple of those other accounts that sort of like have like 20 million followers. And we're like, if we get posted on one of them and we haven't got our name on there, then we're going to lose out on like following or reach or whatever, people coming back to our profile. So
speaking of that one, I know you're good mates with Will Taylor and I actually went to uni with him. I messaged him straight after. I can't remember what video it was. But one of his videos got posted on one of those Insta pages.
Just recently, yeah.
And they tagged the wrong Will Taylor. Yeah. And I saw it and I messaged him. I'm like, they've tagged it. He goes, yeah, I'm fucking fuming.
Was it it's American?
It was either the bat one or standing up.
It was the plane one, video, but it was on the biggest, like it's like Fox Sports, but in America, like one of those.
Like Sports Center or Sports Hit,
yeah. And it's got like 20, 30 million followers. And the video
it's not
got
bad effort.
30 million plays.
Because I went to click on it and it sent me to a guy from New South Wales. I'm like, this is not him.
You'd be spewing. You would honestly be spewing.
Nah, it's all right because that pizza video I still get tagged in like once a week. And some of the viral videos that people share, like you don't get a lot of following from it.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think the pizza video at the time, obviously got the following from the views that I got on it, like my own account. But then the people like, it got shared on Barstool Sports. I think it was up to like 100 million plays. But I reckon it only had about like 10 followers come out of it. So like a lot of people on those accounts, and I do the same, is I'm not going to click on every viral video's tag in the description. I just like the video and scroll past.
Yeah.
It's not the biggest loss in the world. I mean, it's a funny story now that he didn't get tagged, but I'm sure, people see the video and they recognize his face more than they recognize the tag.
Yeah, exactly. Now, one of your bigger sort of things was the torps at different destinations. Now, what's some of your favourite destinations you've kicked the torps, and where's the destination you think you've kicked your best torp?
Best torp. The favourite destinations, one of my favourite, I always tell people, is we kicked over the Channel 7 news building in Adelaide.
Yep.
I didn't kick, and neither did Trey. But we kicked with Mark Soderstrom, who is Channel 7 presenter. He does a lot of commentary in Adelaide. Andrew Hayes, who's like a Nova host in Adelaide and also used to play Sample Footy, won a few flags, and he's on TV. And then we kicked with a kicking consultant who's like Josh Growden, who played at GWS. And I called Josh Growden down because we had the video booked, but I said, I'm not going to kick footy because this building has like $1 million satellite on top of it.
Yep.
And then it's also situated on like 2 main roads in Adelaide. And the time we booked a kick was like 10 a.m. on a Friday where the traffic was going to be like, not peak hour, but pretty busy. And I was like, if anyone's going to kick a torp, we got Mark Soderstrom played VFL footy, Andrew Hayes played sample footy, and Josh Grant's on an AFL list. So I need someone who can kick, because if it's me, it's going to end up on the road or it's going to hit the satellite dish. We're going to get a lot of trouble. But I want the video because it's going to be good content. So Josh put like 10 footies over the satellite dish on top of the roof of Channel 7, and then Sodas and Hazy put a few on the roof. And then Hazy goes, I'll go up and get him. At the start of the day, we rocked up. He's like, no, it's all sweet. Like, I was asked the boss. He said, that's cool. Just tag Channel 7 in the video. It's all sweet.
Yep.
And he goes up on the roof, and then we see like an aircon guy and this other guy in a suit up on the roof looking around on top of the Channel 7. And Hazy's like, come running down. He's like, everyone inside now. And I was like, what's going on? He's like, no more footies. He's like, the Channel 7 boss up there. And he's just blasted me. He's like, what the fuck do you think you're doing kicking footies up here? And then so I was like, you cleared it. He's like, no, I didn't.
So just spur of the moment thing.
Like there's millions of dollars of equipment on that roof, and we were just launching footies on there thinking it was all gravy with Channel 7 and the damage we could have done. But it was a good video in the end. It was funny to watch. And I mean, the backstory that I know and just standing there and like watching it behind the lens was like, what am I doing? Like, why are we kicking at big satellite dishes that are worth a lot of cash? They could have knocked out the Channel 7 stream for SA.
Far out.
Where do you think you've kicked your best one, if you can recall?
The best one. I kicked one of the Sench that I was pretty happy with. It was at night time, so we couldn't tell how far it went.
Oh, okay.
But it was grand final night last year, and I was a bit nervous because behind the Sench is a main road.
Yeah.
It's like one of the highways. It's not busy at that time of night, but I was just like, if this hits a car. So we put a spotter out there, and I sort of kicked over the roof, and the spotter's like lost it, man. It went on the other side of the road. Yeah. So
that's a decent
yeah,
talk.
I mean, in my head, I'm looking at it, I'm like, that's probably like 60, 70 meters to clear the highway plus the Sench.
Yeah.
But we would never know because we never found the footy. It was pitch black at night. It was like, I don't know, 11 p.m. So
yeah. What made you, the torps particular, like what made you want to pursue that as like the beginning of the content?
It's a little bit like unique, I guess. I always used to kick them in games in the D grade because I just get bored of like, you can be vanilla and kick the drop punts, but I was like, didn't get many kicks. So when you got them, you had to play. Well, I'm only going to play footy on the weekends and only get like 5 kicks. I might as well just do something funny or, So I just try and launch the biggest torp or, one year my coach actually banned me from kicking because I just kept kicking torps and they would never go to the opponent, like our team. They'd always get turned over. So he said, anytime Checkers gets the ball, just someone run past for a hand pass.
Yep.
And then that game I kicked torps only as well. So, it was something I've done for ages. Like it's funny because now the content's like blown up a little bit. I remember I bumped into this guy a couple weeks ago when I was back in Adelaide, just at like dinner at the pub, and he played for a local side in Adelaide. He's like, I played you like 5 years ago. And he's like, man, we still talk about that day because you just kicked like 15 torps and you turned every single one over. He's like, it's like gospel in our club. Like, and he's like, no one knew who you were. No one knew who you were for like 5 years. But now they're like, oh, it's that guy. It's the guy who kicked the 15 torps 5 years ago. So that's all I've ever done. It's not like put on for the video. It's just for...
Yeah, nice.
Always wanted to have a laugh on the field, whether it's filmed or not.
Yeah, nice.
Now, obviously, with the torps too came the big, what you wanted to do. Why Gillon McLachlan? Why was it Gill? And how much planning? Because it wasn't just one thing. You did it week after week after week. Why Gill?
Well, we'd done a few campaigns. So we did an Aaliyah one. We did a Marnus torp, Peter Siddle to have a banana. And then we settled on Gill for the torp because we thought we need a big fish. We need a really big fish. And I mean, when you think of big fish in the AFL, like if you could have a kick with anyone in the AFL, who would you choose? Like right now, the biggest name, like who would you choose?
Oh, that's a tough one.
Like just your biggest player you could have a kick with.
Probably Dusty or Cripper, Petrarca.
He'd probably not do it anymore, but he'd probably go Buddy, wouldn't you?
That's exactly the names that came across the table when we were discussing. It was Dusty or Buddy.
Yep.
And people kept sending in, you got to kick with Dusty, you got to kick with Buddy. And we were sitting down trying to plan out our next campaign. It was like Dusty or Buddy. Or I was like, nah, it's too mainstream. It's what people would expect.
Yeah.
It's what if Fox Footy had access to any player in the league and a camera, they'd go get Buddy or Dusty, or if Channel 7 or any media company had access to a camera and a player, that's who they'd probably choose for that. So I was like, who would people not choose? Like, who's the unique one that that is still very big, but people wouldn't choose? You know, you could pick a player, but it's hard because to pick the next tier down of players, it's not as big. You can just go Dusty. If you picked like a 100-game player who's on the up, you could still just get Dusty. So I was like, how can we get something unique? And we struck Gill. I don't know how we struck it, but we're just like, no one's asking Gill to kick footy. He's working at 365 days a year in football. He's at every game almost, every week. He's on the footy field, does all his presses on the footy field, but never kicks. No one's ever seen him kick. So
and was a handy footballer too, Gill.
He was a handy footballer back in the day. He's a big man as well. He's probably 2 meters tall. He's got massive hands, and he should be very good at kicking torp. So we thought we'd chase it at round 1 because we're going to Melbourne for the footy. So we went from Adelaide to Melbourne. We went to all the games. So it was like that super round because it was the first year out of COVID. There was like 5 games in Melbourne, and they were all Melbourne teams.
Yep.
So we took signs to all the games and did some videos. We did a video with like Dale Thomas and Heath Shaw. Got some photos of like some players. I'm trying to think like Nick Del Santo and Bell Chambers and stuff got around the signs. Kane Lambert. And it got a bit of good attention, but we didn't get Gill's attention. Like it wasn't on that scale yet. So we thought it's hard because we had to go back to Adelaide.
Yep.
And Gill's in Melbourne. He rarely comes to Adelaide unless it's gather round, which wasn't the thing back then.
Yep.
So we thought, how can we keep drumming up interest? And when are we going to get this torp? So we went on the footy show at one point. The election was that year, so we did some like fake campaigning for the election, but for Gill. And then late in the year, we came to Melbourne. We went on the footy show. We did a lot of campaigning in Melbourne. We did a sleep out at AFL House, and we went back to Adelaide. Didn't get Gill that week either. It was like maybe July or early August, and then the AFL finally messaged us and said, "Look, we should be able to get Gill, but nothing's like locked in. He's a hard man to like contact. Obviously, presses pop up every day, and it's hard to like plan his calendar out because he can have a free spot here, and then a news story breaks that he has to go talk about."
Yep.
We got the tattoos the week before grand final just to try and get on his radar and lock it in because he'd heard about us now. The AFL media team had knocked on his door or whatever and told him and showed him some of the videos. So he knew who we were. We thought, let's get the tattoos so he's like fully locked in. And we went to Melbourne. We get told the Wednesday before the grand final, we're going to go kick the torp. So we rock up to the MCG and we'll go kick a torp with Gill. And we rock up. We're on the train in from our comm and the Hawthorn racism scandal broke.
Yep.
So I was like, woke up like 8:30. The video was booked for 10. Get on the train 9:15 or so. Check the phone. I was like, oh no. It was like press conference called for MCG at 9:30, and I was like, well, Gill's booked in his calendar to be at the MCG for 10.
Yeah, far out.
So we rock up, and he comes over and he's like, I'll kick a torp. Don't know when it will be. Can't be today because there's the AFL luncheon going on at the MCG in the long room. Which is glass panelled out to the MCG. So it's like if I'm out there kicking a torp, why there's like 1,000 articles being written about my presser on the racism scandal, it's not going to go well for anyone.
Yeah, just a bad look.
So luckily a couple of days later it cooled down a little bit because obviously the grand final took the showcase and we got it done the day before the grand final on the MCG. So
nice.
And what was the moment like when you finally, after all the process, getting him to kick it? And how did he kick it?
He kicked it good. He didn't kick any goals because we set up in the pocket. They were setting up for the pre-game entertainment, which was like Robbie Williams. So they had all the staging out in the oval and the fireworks and stuff. So we were sort of confined to the pocket. Maybe ideally, if we did it on the Wednesday, he would have been straight in front and would have been sodding him easy. But I mean, it's hard to kick a torp from the pocket.
Yeah.
But he was booting him all right. He was a little bit frustrated because he couldn't get one in the goals. And then he chucked the AFL cameraman a footy and he slotted one perfectly. And then he chucked me a footy and I slotted one. And then he chucked Trey one and Trey slotted one. So he's just like, geez, you guys make it look too easy for me. So
yeah, fair.
He's meant to have a press with Robbie Williams and his PR team was sort of dragging him away, being like, all right, you've kicked about 20 now. Let's go over to the PR. For Robbie, he's ready. Like, you're paying this guy $1 million or whatever to sing a couple songs.
Yeah, true.
And he's like, no, couple more. And then they had to physically like grab him and drag him over to the presser. So he's got one of the footies, if it's an iconic moment, because he's come from the pocket and Delta Goodrum is at the presser waiting for Robbie. And it blew up the video because Gills kicked a footy to Delta, like kicked her a little drop on and she marked it and kicked it back, and people were commenting about how her brother plays Samful, I think, and Delta's getting her own footy. That was the footy he was kicking with. He came straight from the torp, had it under his arm.
That's pretty cool.
Laced it to Delta in the presser. So
Nice.
And you mentioned some of the people you got to kick with before Gill. Who would you say, give us maybe a top 3 of the people who kicked it, whether it be how they kicked it or the experience and time they gave you?
yeah, Lockie Jones I'd put up there. We went to KFC. It was his first year at the club, but he was a bit of an icon already because he had the mullet in his junior days, and everyone knew he was going to get drafted because he was on the academy list, I'm pretty sure.
Yep.
So he'd become a bit of an icon in SA. He lives pretty close to where I grew up, and I'm pretty sure we went to the same high school and everything. So we bumped into him. He said, yeah, let's go kick a torp. And I said, where do you want to kick it? He goes, let's do KFC. It's right near where I live, and I go there all the time.
Yeah, nice.
And then, so we went and had a zinger box with him. And it was like maybe 11 a.m. We were having a zinger box with Lockie Jones, and he's telling us, he's like, yeah, I got training in a couple of hours.
That's mad.
And he's like,
Crazy.
first year rookie, like in the best 22 at Port, who were like top 4 side at the time, having a zinger box. And then he just goes outside, no warm up, no stretching, just boots like 2 60-meter torps over the KFC.
It's unreal.
And he's like, all right, catch your boy, he's going to go training now. Which is just the funniest story. Like, he's such like a normal guy, which is so good. Like, he's got the mullet.
Yeah.
He just fits everything you see. Like, look at him and think it's just true. So he fits the mold perfectly. I'm trying to think. Gill was good just because of the experience. I put that very high as well. Just like the craziness of like looking around and seeing an empty MCG and then like being like, how did we land here?
What was it like, especially with all the stage for grand final being there?
Yeah. Well, we couldn't film, like, it was weird. Normally with our torps, we have someone filming at all times. It was all filmed by the AFL. We didn't have any like footage because we had to kick and we had to be in the video. It was an AFL video, so we had to be like speaking and in the background of it all. So it was really weird. It was one of the first times we haven't filmed our own video.
Yeah, nice.
So it was like the stress of being like, I hope we got the right angles. I hope we got the video. Like, I hope I lace a 40-meter torp into the MCG goals, and I turn around and like, surely someone's got that, please.
Yeah,
tell me you got that one.
Nice.
And you know, Gill kicks a really good torp, and like, please tell me that's on camera. Like, but it was a little bit stressful in that sense, but it was good. Just like being able to relax and also just like be in front of the camera and not stressing as much.
Yeah, nice. So. Now, being from Adelaide, obviously gather round. How did you feel having every single team playing in your home state? Like, what was that like?
It was like Christmas. It got announced just after the Gill video, really. So we got back from Melbourne and then we had a little bit of break, and then they announced gather round. I think it was like November. So it would have been, about a month after the Gill video. So we were riding the high of the Gill video, and obviously we were getting a lot of attention from that still, and we got a lot of new followers and people sort of getting around our account. And then gather round gets announced. Yep. So I was like, this couldn't be better. Like, you know, this is the dream come true for content, is the footy comes to us, because we had to keep going to Melbourne for the big games. Like, we go to Melbourne for the grand final.
Is that when you first properly met Will as well? Or had you met Will prior?
I met Will just prior. I'm trying to think. I met him briefly, very briefly, like after a game. Yep. In July, I reckon. We came over for the footy show stuff. He was just like, he was filming outside after a game, and I sort of flicked him. We'd been messaging. Yeah. But I flicked him a message. I was like, I'm at the game. You still here? He was like, yeah, I'm about to head on the train. So we caught up for him for like 10 minutes. Yeah. And then the next time we saw him, he was staying at our house. But it was really cool. As soon as we got the gather round announced, I went and messaged a heap of creators that we'd done a lot of work with, and said, like, feel free to come crash at our house. We were living in this really big house in Adelaide at the time, and it was just myself, Shrey, and Jim, who was the cameraman for a lot of the videos. So we had a lot of spare rooms. I think we had like 4 spare rooms. And I was like, well, let's just fill the house with content creators. Obviously, we're going to need a transport to each game, like gather around. Yes, all the games are in the one location, but we're going to need to like travel as a team. Like, we sort of built our own little team of content people, because we had to go out to Mount Barker, and if you're from Melbourne and you're traveling to Adelaide, like if I'm from Adelaide and traveling to Melbourne, they're like, oh, there's a game in Ballarat. I'm like, how do I get there? True. You know, so we sort of become the tour guides for the week for all these content creators, and we were driving them around to games and showing them the places and making sure that we all sort of went to the games together, and we sort of built a little network on the hill at Adelaide, and we went to a couple open trainings as a group. Like, went to the Melbourne and Port open training. So
what is it about the hill?
It's just a different atmosphere. When you go to the footy, it's a lot of sit down. Sometimes you land some awkward types around you. I don't know if you ever go to the MCG and maybe you just go by yourself or go with another person, and it's just 1 or 2 people, and then you maybe land like a real feral next to you, or a real like loud person, or maybe sometimes you even land like a fat person either side, and you're a bit like squished. The hill's just free flowing.
It's a bit of that local footy vibe too.
Local footy vibe. You can sort of like flow in and flow out. You don't have a defined seat. you want to go to the bar or the canteen and come back, you can go pick a new spot. You don't have to stand in the same spot all the time. And people can just move and free flowly as they want. So it does get busy sometimes for the bigger games. Gather round, there was a couple of bigger games and you couldn't see the game. I mean, I'm lucky I'm tall, but you don't see a lot of the sport, especially at the cricket, because the cricket's a lot longer day, so people sit down and you just can't see the game. So you go there for the atmosphere, for the buzz. You don't even watch the sport. The footy, I can see most of it because I'm tall, but I know that Trey doesn't see much. He comes home and he's like, I don't know what happened.
Yep. And then when did the obsession of milk come, and then bringing it to the games as well?
Well, the milk had been around for a little bit. I'd done a little bit at gigs. It was because one time...
But originally it started as normal milk, then transitioned to chalky milk.
It was full cream. It's because one time we were at a gig, and I'm trying to think what happened. I ordered dinner before the gig. I was running late for the gig, and the venue ordered me dinner. They're like, "Oh, we'll get you some dinner because you've come from another gig to here." And then they're like, "Oh, you want a drink?" I was like, "You guys got any milk?" So I was having a chicken pie with milk, and I think it sort of just... I drank milk normally, like I just drink it by the glass, and it's something that not a lot of people do. Like some people do it, and if they do it, that's fine. They get around it, but some people think it's really weird.
Yeah.
And obviously, when I was drinking just a plain glass of milk before playing my gig, people thought it was really weird. And I was like, well, if people think that's weird, it's probably going to be a good marketing ploy.
Yeah.
Because there's people that resonate with it, and there's people like, that's weird. It's with the best of both worlds. So I started just bringing it to gigs and handed it out, and trying to think, we did some pouring it on people was some one thing. I don't know how we got to that point, but then it sort of fizzled down for a bit. We started playing footy, and then I think it was like round 3 or 4, this young bloke that started coming out to watch all their games called Finn just rocked up, and I had no idea he had this because he just used to rock up and watch our games, and he was always on our TikTok lives, and he was always commenting on our videos, and he sort of he's become a really good mate now, but at the time we didn't know much about him, and he was at half time and coming off the field, and he runs out a 2-litre chocolate milk.
That couldn't have been good on the guts.
I don't really care, but I indulged, and then I passed it around to a few other teammates, and Jim filmed it all, and it got a lot of a lot of views for good reason. Like people drinking chalky milk at half time was a bit unique. And then he became Milk Boy Finn is his tag because the next week he brought it again, and then we started just getting. He'd have an esky of chalky milk, so he'd run out at quarter time, half time, 3/4 time for us and the opponents. Even to the extent that a couple of weeks later, the Premier of South Australia, Pete Malinauskas, was playing on the oval next to us, and at quarter time of his game, we ran him chalky milk, and then at quarter time of my game, he came over with a 2-litre chalky milk.
That's mad. That's unreal.
And we had Dairy Farmers sponsor our big game later in the year, and they brought 1,000 cartons of milk to the game. I think it was a part of the Swano deal was they'd give out 1,000 cartons of milk for the night.
Yep.
And then I'm looking at Finn at quarter time. Well, he came in, he was doing a bit of like water running. And I was like, bring us out a chalky milk, like it's time, I'm ready, like it's 10 minutes in the game. He's like, nah, they're all gone. And I was like, what? He's like, nah, gone. He's like, they were gone for the start of the game.
That's crazy.
And then there's kids everywhere that brought their own that night. There would have been like 5,000 cartons of milk at the ground. So much milk, and probably a lot of it wasted as well. So,
well, that kind of segues us into that next sort of thing we were going to ask.
Did you Div 12 Resis?
Yeah.
Yeah, Div 12 Resis. When was it? Obviously, you'd been playing for a little bit, but when did you realise or start making content around it, and when did you realise it started to kick off? Because originally, if I'm correct, with Marmalade, Shrey was more just a camera guy.
He was the camera guy, but he picked up and became the front of it. Probably the Div 12 Resis a lot. He started doing a few more videos in front of the camera because we worked out that people just loved what he did. He's a bit unique. He dances, and people just froth that. They just used to go nuts for it I feel like because we gate kept him a little bit and had him behind the camera, people wanted more of him too.
Yeah.
There was a lot of like, get Shrey in front of the camera. So we used to just drip feed him to the content.
Yeah.
You'd see him once every couple of weeks, and people were like, where's Shrey, where's Shrey? So the demand came. But then as soon as footy season started, he became the star of the show. So we originally were just going to play footy together. We didn't know what content we were going to do. It was the same as like cricket season. We don't know what we're going to do. We're just going to experiment. I'd seen obviously like Prime Trains vlogs and a few other like game day vlogs. I saw like Caden doing like vlogs at the AFL games.
Yep.
And I was like, all right, we had a GoPro we bought for Gather Round. I was like, we'll take the GoPro to games, we'll film our reactions, and we'll make up some game day vlogs and see how it goes. Because obviously Prime's vlogs are like pretty good level of footy. We're playing in the D grade. We'll just vlog. So we started vlogging that first game, but we didn't know what direction we were going to take. So we were going to film some bits, and I was like, Jim, maybe you just go film in the breaks or whatever. You just film some little bit of content so we've got some stuff, and I'll see what I can edit up. And then at halftime, Jim comes up, he goes, I filmed this, and I put it up on my TikTok, and it's got 200k plays.
Far out.
And that was the video that had the voiceover, the girlfriend voiceover.
Yep.
So that was actually Jim in his car filming me. So I've said it on a few podcasts. I think we've said it a few times now. So it wasn't my missus. I don't have a missus. It was Jim just filming, and he's grabbed some audio of a girl talking about her partner and clipped it over top of my footage, and it went a bit viral, and it got a couple million plays in the end, and they put it on the Today Show.
Yep.
And it was sort of the origin of the Div 12 Resis. And then the next week, Jim was like, all right, well, the game dev log idea was cool, but it's obviously long format and quite clunky to film.
Yep.
So I was like, he's just started filming like all these short format TikToks and stuff. And he ended up filming the entire game. I think towards the end of the season, he had 2 phones. So we get some different angles, and we had some other people helping with filming. And then next year, we'll probably look at like live streaming and filming on different devices, because like all our games were filmed on phones this year. Next year, we probably need to get some cameras to do longer format videos, or different type of angles. Or the biggest game of Div 12 Res, I think we had 14 cameras in the end, which on the live stream there was one even tied into the change rooms.
Okay.
So they had a feed running through the roof up to the balcony, and there was a camera in the change room, sort of like you see on Channel 7 coverage. Which was a bit nerve wracking, because we were like getting changed, blokes getting their rigs out, blokes getting their cocks out of there.
Yeah, true.
And just not knowing where that footage was going, or whether it was on the stream. But I think they only used it at halftime and just to show the runouts, which was pretty funny. But yeah, there's a lot of camera angles, which sort of gave us an insight into what we might need next year.
We'll touch on that big game in a second, but I was listening to the you guys on the Unlaced podcast last night, and one of the stories that made me laugh, and I'd like if you could retell, and I think it's one of the videos that got a lot of blow up and plays too. Can you talk me through the Stray shot on goal?
Yeah. All right, so the first started in round 2. Round 1 we got pumped. I think we only kicked like 1 goal, so no one got anywhere near it. But round 2 it was a lot tighter game, and I think I kicked a goal, and then Shrey in the last quarter. Shrey had 2 shots on goal that game, which is crazy when you think about Shrey's entire season and how little the ball he had. But there was a famous one. It was he was in the pocket, and I think he got someone. He smothered a footy, and then someone grabbed him, and he got done like holding the man. So he got a free kick about 25 out in a slight angle. And I know how Shrey kicks. I've seen him kick for ages, and it's not good. It's terrible with the footy. He throws the ball up in the air, and it could go anywhere. So I sort of like was lingering behind him, being like, if you want to give me the hands, I'll just slot it.
Yep.
But then I look at Jim, and Jim's filming, so I was like, no, you kick, it'll be funny. Like it was a pretty vital stage of the game. Like we're only down by like 12 points with maybe like 10 minutes to go.
Yeah.
So he could have really turned the game, but I was like, no, it's gonna be funny. If Shrey kicks it, it'll be really good content, and if he misses it, it'll be good content. And it went off the side of his boot, and it hit the fence, and it was like 20 meters to the right of the goal, and he's only 20 meters out, so it's really just like shanked it.
Yeah.
And we edited that clip up so many different angles and so many different ways, and I think we added up at one point, it had like 10 million views on it. And I was like, Trey, 10 million people have seen you miss that shot of goal.
Yeah,
like,
far out.
Or 10 million.
That's more than your average game of footy, I reckon.
Yeah. It was one of the more iconic. And it started the saga of like people wanting Shrey to kick a goal, because they're like, if that's how bad he is from that one video, they're like, oh, get the ball to Shrey to see if he can kick one.
Yeah.
So then like anytime we got anywhere near it, we just really clipped it up a lot and made it look good. So
And the shin splints.
Yeah, this was the week after that, he got dropped.
Yeah.
Because he didn't rock up the training. He was asleep in the lounge. I got home from work, and I was like, come on, man, we got to go training. And he's like, nah, I'm tired. He didn't come. He got dropped. And then he said that his shins were hurting. So he said that it was because of his shin splints.
Yep.
But he did have shin splints in the end. So, but it wasn't the reason why he missed that game. It was because he got dropped because he was asleep.
All right. They're dropping people in D-Raid.
Yeah, we had a few numbers. Well, even in the cricket, I think we're at risk because they have 16 available for an 11-person team.
Far out.
And on the weekend, I thought we were going to be at risk. I didn't know if we were going to get a game because we're new to the club and obviously going to play the guys who've been at the club a bit longer before you play the newbies. So we're lucky to get a game in the end.
Oh, fair.
But the Shrey saga kicked on. There was probably 4 or 5 more shots at goal that he had, got nowhere near it, and people were really wanting it. And then luckily in the big game, he finally kicked it.
Now, speaking of the big game, let's touch on it. Obviously, the biggest game, local footy. Before we get into it, how much behind the scenes work had to go in prior to even getting started? Like, everyone sees it when it happens and it's an amazing thing. But how much work did you actually have
like
to put in?
an unthinkable amount. Like it almost became my full-time job for like 4 weeks.
Just for one game?
Yeah. Like I cut back a lot of shifts at work in the lead up. Like we knew we were moving to Melbourne pretty much just as soon as we started playing here. Like I knew the move to Melbourne was going to be on the cards. And then I was like, all right, well, if we're going to go to Melbourne and leave Lockleys and leave the Div 12 Redsies behind in Adelaide, let's throw like a big, like, not a farewell as such, because we'll still take the content with us and it'll go wherever we go. But sort of like, let's use what the people use the word clout, like use that sort of like hype or clout to get something really big going.
Yep.
So yeah, I pitched the idea to the club. Then there was a date in the calendar that I sort of knew we were going to be moving to Melbourne around like end of July. Or like somewhere in July. So I was like, all right, they looked through the fixture. There was a date where the showdown was on in Adelaide and our game was a night game. So it would have clashed. It would have not have worked. Like those sort of games, I'm trying to like think sometimes if like maybe Collingwood versus Carlton was on and there was a local game in Melbourne, like people just would go to Collingwood Carlton because it's a big game and you'd struggle for numbers that weekend. So like especially in the D grade, like a lot of people would be like, I'm going to the showdown, I'm not going to play. And we'd have like 10 people available. So I said to the club, how about we move the game to the Friday? It'll be a standalone game. Then people who are travelling to the games, because if we throw something like this up, we had a lot of Melbourne following at the time. I was like, they might travel. Like we might get people travelling over to come watch. Then they can come over for the whole weekend. They can go to our game on the Friday, then go to the showdown on the Saturday. It makes a bit of a weekend. So we pitched it to the league. They said we can swap the date. And then we hit up the opposition team actually first, and they said they'd love to swap the date.
Yeah, nice.
That was the first stage, was just getting the date locked in. We didn't know how big it was going to go, how much we get behind it, but it was just like, let's move this date, and then if we get a Friday night game, we'll go hard on planning it. So it took about 2 weeks just to get the date moved across, but the opposition team was really keen on that as well because it was going to help them. Once we got the date locked in, then it was just like full go, like getting sponsors, getting council permits for parking and toilets. The club helped a lot. There was 2 guys at the club. So Matt Lucas was our footy director, and he's really good in like SA Sport. I think he just won a big award for like Volunteer of the Year.
Yep.
And he was doing the same thing as me. Like it was like 8 hours a day just planning this game.
That's crazy.
So yeah, like, and it was like hurdles as well. Like you'd call the council, all right, we're going to have the car park here. Oh, hurdle, how are you going to deal with this? How are you going to deal with that? And you'd have to just go back and work on it, and then go back to the council and go back and work on it, and then go back to this. A lot of hurdles and back and forth. The amount of Zoom calls I had with sponsors, like I reckon we put a bit of like 30 plus Zoom meetings, and think like a Zoom meeting is like minimum 15 minutes, sometimes an hour.
Yep.
So we're looking at like, 20 hours of just video meetings with like potential sponsors and like graphics teams, or like the Guernsey. We had a special Guernsey design, so it was back and forth with the design and where we can put the logos.
Yep.
And then we had a lot of hurdles from the footy league, which was surprising in the end, but wasn't the greatest. Probably the sour bit of the game, but they didn't want it to go ahead, and we ended up having to forfeit the game at the last minute. So no one really knew that at the time. It was just something we kept pretty secret on the day.
Yep.
So it was just myself, Shrey, Jim, our coach, and the opposition coach knew this, but we got told we were forfeiting in the morning because the league weren't going to support the game, and it had to be like, it was pretty much just like a scratchy in the end, but it was like, well, no one knew it was. So we thought if we tell people that it's a forfeit, 1, it might interrupt the crowds. 2, the players might not take it as seriously.
Yep.
Like I wanted players like playing like it was a real game, like going hard at it. You don't want it to become like an EJ Whitten Legends game where it's a bit of like a charity game.
Yeah,
like people were having a bit of a laugh and doing too much funny stuff.
Yep.
And then you didn't want the crowd to like think they could just run on the field and cause damage or like, as soon as people knew, if people knew it was a forfeit, you had the risk of like that Project X type mentality and people can just cut sick and do whatever they want.
Yep.
So we kept it secret. In the end, the forfeit's a 60-point loss. And I think we lost by 62 points. So it worked out pretty even for
pretty
the
even, yeah.
But yeah, it was crazy seeing how many people rolled in. We rolled in, we sort of catered and budgeted for about 1,000 to 2,000 people to rock up.
Yep.
That was sort of like the whole time we're planning and getting sponsors on board and getting food trucks and toilets, and the car parking organised was about 1,000 to 2,000. And when I rocked up to the ground, there was maybe about 400 people there.
Yep.
I had to do a bit of media stuff, and I had to do a bit of videos for some of the sponsors, and I was in the rooms for a long time doing some stuff. So I didn't see any of the crowd build in, and I rolled into I was probably an hour before the game to 15 minutes before the game. So the 45-minute period, I just didn't see the crowd.
Yep.
And then we get called to go out. I was still in my jeans and jacket and everything like that because I'd been doing all this media stuff. I hadn't had time to get ready for the game, and we go to run out, and they've created a guard of honour, and it's like 100 metres long.
Far out.
Kids everywhere. There's a video of it on our TikTok, but there's probably about 2,500 there at the start of the game. So we went from the last time I saw the ground was 400 people, and I was like, all right, it's pretty good. Hopefully a few more rock up. And then I was like a little bit nervous, like, you know, it's all those like the same with DJ events. You sort of like, are people going to actually show up? Or,
yeah, true.
But they did in the end, which was good.
Now, talk us through some of the key moments in the game. Obviously, we all know Stray's goal, Jarrah's mark. What were some of your favourite moments?
Yeah, Jarrah's mark. It was funny because Jarrah made a 50 on the weekend at cricket.
Yeah, I saw that, yep.
And I'm trying to think who was cracking the shits. Was it Will might have been cracking the shits because he's like, I don't know if everyone's seen Jarrah's mark, but basically the guy fell over in front of him. Like his direct opponent slipped. Same opponent slipped over for Shrey's goal as well. He was wearing like almost runners, like those Asics boots that don't have really like long sprigs, and the grass was a bit wet. So he slipped over, and Jarrah's pretty much just sat on this bloke's head. He's like, Will was at cricket, and he's like, Jarrah got dropped 3 times, batting on his way to 50, and they were all sitters. And he's like, imagine being Jarrah Davis. Your direct opponent falls over in front of you so you can take mark of the century, and then you get dropped 3 times so you can make 50. It's like this guy just has it too easy. But it was funny watching Jarrah's mark, and it was straight after Stray's goal, so that extended that quarter out to like 70 minutes. It was a very long quarter.
No, it was Mitch Robertson's speech during three-quarter time because that was his aim in the end, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Well, he was a few deep at this point, wasn't he?
I think he added like 8 or 9 cans at that point, but he was great. We hit up a lot of big names to come down. Like we had a lot of recruits, like so just off the top, like Mark Cosgrove, JP Drake, who owns like Drake's Supermarkets. We had Caden McDonald, Connor Rogers, Jarrah Davis, and Will Taylor come from Melbourne. We had Goxie come from Brisbane. We had Tom Wren from Channel 9. So it was like all these big recruits we sort of got into the game. And then I hit up some bigger names as well. It's like Midge Robinson was one of them. And he sort of like, sometimes those bigger names, they're busy and they're hard to contact. I didn't know if he was going to come. And then it was like 3 days before the game, he was like, I'm coming.
That's mad. That's
imagine
crazy.
like planning for a game, like getting...
Did you originally want him to play?
Yeah, we ordered him at Guernsey. So he had a player issue Guernsey because I was just like, there's some other names. I won't name them all because hopefully they play next year. But, you know, hit up some like tiered sort of names. So I was like, all right, we'll go Matt. Like one of them was Carl Stefanovic, who was like the one who like put us on TV. So I was like, but he unfortunately was on a family holiday at the time, couldn't get there. But like some, you know, I was trying to get some like big fish. So I was like, Robbo would be funny because he's sort of doing the vlogs. He does a lot of content. He'd fit in perfectly. And I bumped into him at a boxing event in the Gold Coast a couple weeks earlier. He's like, oh yeah, tell me more about it. Like, send me an email. Sent him emails and the messages, and they sort of weren't getting replied to. And then 3 days before, he's like, I'm coming. Just like,
that's crazy. That's mad.
Like, everything we planned has just been like exploded tenfold. Like, and like the message to the footy club director who we've been planning and like, all right, this is how it's all going to look. This is the run sheet. And I was like, all right, big news. Just got off the phone with Mitch Robinson. He's coming. Like, it's just like, what the hell's going on? And he rolled in as coach, so he couldn't play because he had some contracts with other teams and the risk of injury. But he was fantastic. He was so good. Like, he was there on his like no payment. Like normally the guys like that you have to pay to play for your club, but he was just there just to make content and on the he's such a good bloke. Like he's so good. He gets sometimes a bad rap for being a bit of a bad boy in the media, I guess. But he's like the perfect country local football bloke. Yeah, like gets around all the boys, make sure everyone's like up and about, all the bum taps and and then just loves having the beers after the game. So he was great. 3/4 time. He didn't know much about the resis or anything, so he's rolled in pretty much blind to this thing with just his cameraman, not knowing what's going to go on. Not knowing how many people are going to rock up. He's just like, oh, I'll just go see what it's about, and then just absorbed himself into it. As soon as he saw the crowd rolling in, he got himself in some club kit and got himself on the commentary stream and was doing. I think he sculled a can of beer on the commentary stream and everything.
That's sick.
But at 3/4 time, he realised all of the kids were there for Shrey, and the crowd all rocked up to see Shrey kick the goal. So he was like, all right. Don't care what you guys want to do. We've lost the game. Get the ball to Shrey. He's like, everyone clear the 50. No one go near it. We're just going to kick the ball long to Shrey and see if we can clunk one. And
he's 4 cans of CC deep, isn't he, Shrey?
I don't know what Shrey was doing. He just lost the plot. He's got 5,000 people rock up to see him kick a goal, and he's too focused on drinking chalky milk and Canadian club cans.
That's a terrible mix. That can't be good.
My brother, just try to get your hands on the footy. I don't know what was going through his head.
Kicked more goals 6-7 cans deep than he did sober.
You have the biggest crowd of all time rock up, and they're all chanting your name to kick a goal, and your back's turned to the footy, and you're facing the crowd drinking cans and drinking milk.
Crazy.
And then they're like, people wonder why you can't kick a goal. He's really focused on the footy, old Trey, sometimes.
But yeah, in that final, it's the same guy who slipped afterwards, just slipped for Stray. How was the moment for you? And like, did you know as soon as that guy slipped that? Bloody hell,
You never know with Trey because he can't kick. So I won the ruck tap and I hit our captain. We had this player we've sort of played all year, and it's sort of like we had different numbers on our plays, me and the captain. So I was like, called the play. I was like, all right, I'm going to tap behind here, run through, and I'll hit you.
Yep.
And he couldn't work any better. I hit him on the chest, and then he kicked deep in the forward, and I was like, ugh. At least we got a forward 50. That's good. We hadn't had a forward 50 for like 2 quarters at that point. But then I saw the Trey's opponent slip over. He was in the, I don't know how to describe them. They're like Asics gel shoes, and they're like short sprigs.
Yep.
They're career savers. They're good for your feet. But they're not good for wet weather. And he was slipping around all night, and he slipped over. The ball went out the back. Shrey's picked it up, but with Shrey, you never know. Like, he just can't kick. He fumbles the ball a lot. And I was like, well, this is as close as we're going to get. He's 20 metres from goal at this point, and he's got no direct opponent.
Yeah.
But he almost ran over the line as well. That's because he was fumbling the ball so much.
Is it true he actually almost hit the post?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was a metre out, and he was still fumbling the ball and then managed to get it on his boot. I was like, man, this could have almost gone wrong. But yeah, it was almost good that he was so close to goal because it means the crowd sort of like submerged. It was funny as to watch back. I mean, at the time I was still in the midfield when it sort of happened, but I came running in. By the time I got there, the whole crowd was on the field.
He was covered in chalky milk, wasn't it?
Chalky milk. Everyone was covered in chalky milk. Anyone who was in the first 100 people to him was just drenched in it.
Far out.
And there was like young girls in there. I just saw like head to toe in chalky milk, and I was just like, oh my god. Can't imagine all these kids like walking back to their parents, and then their parents be like, "What has happened to you?"
Yeah, fair.
But no, it was chaos, and then it happened again for Jarrah. He kicked the goal after taking the big mark, and everyone stormed the field again. So
how was the opposition during
really good.
this? Yeah,
couldn't give them enough credit. Obviously, they changed the date for us, which was good. Probably worked better for both of us. But they got around us big time. They pumped us by 130 points the first time we played them.
Yep.
And then obviously they won again. They made the grand final. They unfortunately lost the grand final, but they did make the GF this year. And I mean, for a lot of those guys, they were quite a young side, which is when I was looking through the fixture, I was like, that'd be a good calendar date because the young guys will get around the content and they've all been watching it and following it. So I knew it was going to be a good spectacle and there was going to be some good videos. So I mean, the game's a live stream. They got all their mates watching and they get to go back and watch their game. And obviously everyone has some highlights. You get to go back and have a bit of banter. And it's not often in like Div 12 resis or like in the D grade you get your game streamed. So
true.
Just being out for them, the spectacle of like people, they were getting booed and stuff, which was funny.
Oh, really? The opposition?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Kicked their first goal, they all got booed and things like that. But in the end of it, if someone offered me to play in that game as an opposition, I'd take it.
Yeah.
The week, you're like, that's sick. That's such a cool experience for me that I'm never going to have. I'm not going to play high level footy where I get to watch it back or have a crowd rock up. So I think they all enjoyed it in that aspect.
But it will be happening again, we hope.
Hopefully. We'll find a new team in Melbourne. I don't know if we can replicate that night because it was very special and very unique. And the fact that, so I've said it to a few guys, is the fact it was so like local.
Yeah.
That people could run on the ground and that people could stand right on the boundary line and that everything just worked out so nice. But sometimes when you organise these big games, obviously you're going to have to get more, like next time we book it, we're going to have to book more security and we're going to probably have to have it at a stadium, which is going to be harder for people to access the field. They're running on the field and, the sponsors that want to be involved and how it's being streamed and everything might change. And just all the different elements of like piecing it together work so perfectly the first time and sometimes it might not gel the second. So be interesting to see how it goes. I'm keen to do it again. I think everyone that was involved in it's keen to do it again, but it's just like, are we going to get it to happen the same, as good?
Yeah.
Because it's going to be hard to find a stadium that will let you storm the field.
Yeah,
like that.
True that. True. Moving on to sort of a more formal thing that you managed to get up this year. I know you were campaigning for it for a while, but the longest kick, talk us through sort of how that came about and also the day.
Yeah, we've been kicking the torps for ages, and early on, the torp videos all had the Fox Footy theme music behind them.
Yep.
Until TikTok ripped that off TikTok, so we couldn't use it anymore. Otherwise, we'd still be using it.
Yep.
It was every single video had the Fox Footy theme. That was the whole sort of like template we were using.
Yep.
And for ages, we'd like just admired the Fox Footy longest kick. It's the centerpiece. People kicking big torps on grand final day sort of kicks off your grand final day. A lot of people might wake up a little bit dusty or they've stayed up late watching the replays or whatever it is. So your day sort of kicks off about that 11 o'clock. It's when most people, when you have the house parties, crack the first can and they watch the longest kick and then your grand final day's underway. So it's been centre point of grand final day, kicking torps. Obviously, we're riding the high of the Div 12 res. He's moving to Melbourne. I was like, if we're ever going to have a crack at getting on the longest kick, it's going to be this year.
Yep.
Like next year, who knows what could happen? And, you know, we're not, you know, and you get older, we might get not as much hype next year. We're riding the peak of our hype.
Yep.
So I was like, let's have one crack again on the longest kick, because if it's going to happen, it's going to happen this year. So
Whose idea was it to camp outside of Fox Footy?
it was mine. Trey wasn't a fan of it. It was a tough gig. It was so cold that night as well. It was like 4 degrees. But it was really funny. We camped out, and then without any real planning, we had to call Tails down a few times because he was staying at a house, and we were like, all right, we need a power bank because our phones are dying.
Yep.
All right, Tails, we need a laptop because there's nothing to do and we're getting bored. So he drove down and got his laptop. And then later in the night, Trey's like, I'm starving and I can't get Uber Eats. So he's called Tails down to come bring him some food. So Will Taylor was he was the gem of that operation because he was behind the camera and no one really knew he was coming down 4 or 5 times that night to drop off the supplies. But Dale Thomas rocked up to record.
Did you know he was?
No,
he had no idea.
I thought it was Tails because we were expecting Tails to rock up. And I heard a bit of like noise outside, so I've unzipped the tent thinking it was Tails dropping off the laptop, and it was Dale Thomas. And obviously he'd seen on the Instagram that we were camping out, and he had to rock up to do a segment for I think it was for Points Bet with Billy Brownless. He had to do his piece. And it was real late at night. Like normally they record that stuff early in the day, but this was like 9:30 at night. So I just didn't think it was going to be any presenters. And I've sort of opened up the tent and I was like, what the fuck? What are you doing here? And he's like, and he had a bag full of like chalky milk and everything. He'd been to the convenience store across the road and got us some supplies. So it was real funny, really unplanned, but I was just like, that couldn't have worked any better. Like it's funny that Daisy of all people was there. Like, yeah, that was funny. And then I had the number of the producer at Fox Footy on my phone, and she messaged me at like, I don't know, 6 a.m. when she woke up, and apparently like it was going through all the Fox Footy group chats because they had us on the security cam.
Yep.
And the security guard overnight was like alarmed and like had messaged Fox Footy, and then they had messaged like the staff chat, and then she got the message being like, what the hell is this? Yep. And then she was like, nah, let him go, they're all right. And, you know, it's all over social media. I've seen it.
Yep.
So I thought we were going to get kicked out at one point by the security.
Now the actual day of the longest kick, how were you feeling in the build up? And the big question is, Stray still let you know that he kicked further than you?
Yeah, he does it all the time.
He's got a tattoo on him.
He's got it tattooed on him. I let him know that he spelled his tattoo wrong, so that's my comeback.
No.
But the build up was weird because we'd done the gig at Frankston on the Thursday. I did 2 gigs. I did a gig at the MCG and Frankston, so we didn't have a lot of sleep Thursday night. Friday we had to get up we went from Frankston, we got home at like 4 in the morning, and then we had a 5 a.m. appearance on Sunrise.
Yep.
So I had like half-hour nap, did Sunrise, and then we had a full day of filming, so I was running on no sleep.
And Sench the Friday night.
Friday night, Sench. We had to do some filming for Fox Footy Friday night, so we went in and did the bounce and some other filming. So yeah, we literally had no rest. And then obviously grand final day was like chaos because we had to go from the Fox Footy longest kick to the Clubby Sports breakfast to grand final to billboards. So I had to have all my portable chargers, all my microphones, all my cameras ready to go. But we got up in the morning and it was good because I had all my mates with me and Jim was there and Matt and I, who's from Adelaide, was over. So we had our whole crew and we rolled into the big tent for the Fox Footy longest kick, and Fev was there and Eddie Betts was there. So Shrey's favourite player of all time is Eddie Betts.
What was he like when Eddie was in his presence?
I've met Eddie a few times, so it was good. He sort of recognised because Eddie used to live across the road from Lockley's.
Yep.
So I've actually had like a couple kicks with him. He came out to train with us.
Had Shrey met him prior? Or?
No, Shrey was melting. Like in the back of Shrey's phone, back of my phone's Kane Corn's card, but in the back of Shrey's phone is Eddie Betts.
Yeah.
And he's just like a diehard Eddie Betts fan, and that's the first person we saw when we got in the tent. And he comes straight up to Shrey, and he's like filming an Instagram video. He's like, Shrey from Lockley's, and Shrey's like, he knows who I am.
That's crazy. He would have been like a fangirl.
Yeah, a little bit. And then all these players started rolling in. So like Jamara and Adam Sard was one of my favourites. We had a good chat, which is weird because I didn't expect, like, out of all the players there, we'd done a Zoom call with Sicily.
Yep.
A few weeks, like a week earlier. So I was like trying to gauge who like I'd get on along with most, but it was Sard was the one that was getting around us the most, and had a good chat to him. And then it was over pretty quick. We just got up, we were the first ones to kick, got up, had our one kick.
Yep.
And then we had to run to the Clubby Sports grand final breakfast because we were late for it. We were meant to do a segment of the grand final breakfast originally, but obviously the Fox Footy longest kick took first preference.
Yep.
So we had the last segment of the day at this grand final breakfast. Our segment got replaced by Max Gorn and Simon Goodwin. So that was meant to be us on the couch, but I think they got the better stick there by getting Gorny. And then we ran from the longest kick to the crown.
Okay, yep.
down the Yarrow, and we were in full kit. I was in footy boots still. We didn't have any time to change, so we rolled into the breakfast in shorts, footy boots. Everyone's in like pretty formal attire, having the grand final breakfast, and we just rolled straight into our segment. We were dripping in sweat.
Far out. Did you get any questions?
Yeah, we were getting stopped on the way to the Crown, but we had like 10 minutes to get there from the longest kick, and you couldn't get an Uber, and there was no scooters around.
Yep.
We bumped into Kane Corns on the way.
Oh, far out.
And we had to have like a brief, like 30-second chat, but he had to get the gym, we had to get the breakfast. So it was like, didn't even get to really like chat. And then, we got there just on time of our segment. We went straight on stage and we ended up canning the segment because we were so cooked from running.
Yep.
And just did a milk shoey. So
Now, obviously, too, we're just about really ready to wrap it up too, but you have your own Resi's podcast too, as your hat you're wearing right there. Is the merch out?
Not yet. These are just demo samples, but they should be out pretty soon. We ordered a few demos just to test the sizing and stuff. So I've snagged one of the demos and I keep wearing it everywhere, which probably Taylor says I shouldn't because we should keep the merch hidden until we release it. But I've had a few offers from people, I can't buy that off your head. And I was like, nah, like it's coming out very soon. It should be out very soon. They just got to order some in. But
what can we expect going forward with the Resi's podcast?
Yeah, well, now we're in season. It's good because we've got some games to talk about and some guests to have on. So we've had a few guests so far, but we're ramping them up. So we're trying to get a few cricketers on over cricket season, and we'll get a few footy players next year, but not the Dusty Martins or the Buddies. It's got to be the Gills of the world. So we're always looking for the unique guests, I guess, because we are the Resis, and you can't really have A-grade talent on your Resis podcast.
Yeah,
so,
true.
There'll be a few unique guests in that sense. We're actually recording later tonight, which is funny. 2 podcasts one day, but it's been good fun.
Any guests this week? Or
this week we're just going to discuss the game because Jarrah made a 50, so we'll get him in to discuss his 50.
Nice.
We'll keep it simple this week because we got our first win.
how long do you reckon it'll take for him to?
Very long. It'll be a long episode. He loves talking about himself.
Can't wait to hear it.
And then obviously going forward with Marmalade, is there anything penciled in at the moment that is coming up that's exciting?
There's the finding the footy team is going to be exciting and getting out of some pre-season. I'm trying to get to Darwin to play a game at the moment, so we're discussing with a few clubs and people on getting to Darwin, which is weird because they play a pretty good level of footy up there, but they do have a lower grade. And I'd be keen to just get up and just try different weather and location and stuff. I saw Prime went to New Zealand recently and played footy, which was pretty cool.
That looks sick.
Obviously, if you're good at footy, you get bought out and they send you around the country or send you different places to play footy. But I think it'd be funny seeing the Resis sort of like fly out for a game.
Yeah, playing Resis in Darwin.
and see if a crowd rocks up over there. But that's the next thing I'm sort of trying to plan at the moment. And then obviously just lock down footy for next year and hopefully get you boys to come out for a game at some point.
100%.
I'd love to.
Is there any gigs you got coming up as well
DJ
locally?
gigs, I don't have anything booked in just yet. I don't book them in. I don't seek them too much because the calendar does fill up with sporting stuff.
Yep.
Like grand final week, the gigs were good because it's great, it's busy and everyone's enjoying it. But it was also in one aspect like the no sleep and the like being red-eyed for the Fox footies. Sometimes a downside. So if there's a sporting, something pops up, like that's really good for our content and I have a gig booked in, it can sometimes clash. So I don't like filling my calendar up too much with them.
Yep.
I mean, that doesn't mean I don't like taking them on. They're still good fun, but it's just, I'm not like actively seeking to fill my calendar because like sometimes the rocking up to cricket after a 4 a.m. finish at a gig can be a bit crook.
Yeah.
Yeah, but thank you for joining us. That's probably just about going to wrap it up. I really enjoyed your conversation and shout out to Just Co for this lovely room and lovely place that we've been able to do it in. And was there anything else you'd like to touch on, Will?
No, that's about it for me. Thanks heaps for coming on.
No, cheers for having the chat.
So keen to listen to the rest of your podcast later today.
And that drops on a Wednesday morning?
Wednesday morning, yeah. We record on Mondays so we can get Tails. This is not the quickest man in the world on the footy field, so we got to give him a little bit of time to edit. So,
fair enough. Well, again, thank you for coming on, and we look forward to watching more of your content going towards the future.
Cheers, boys. Appreciate it.